Welcome to the Spiritually Led meeting. Each week, we're honored to host powerful speakers from around the world, sharing their stories, experiences, and hope with us. All of our speakers are recorded through our Anogram and shared through our Anogram YouTube channel and audio speaker WhatsApp groups, so the message can reach those who need it. If you're listening to the recording and you're struggling, seeking help, or simply have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact us anytime at spirituallylit24@gmail.com, and we promise to get back to you. And tonight we've invited Peter M. Experience on the topic for primary purpose for the next 40 minutes. After that, the meeting will be open for sharing back. We will give you a sign 10 minutes before the time is up. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be of service. It's an honor, it's a privilege. I've come to understand the longer I'm in this process of recovery, that to be part of a fellowship and to be part of a group of people who understood me really when I couldn't and no one else could. And I mean, no one, you see, the reason why this is an honor and a privilege is that I picked up a crack pipe in 1981. And you heard me, 1981, when everybody was freebasing, had just hit London and hit the UK. And being a career drug addict already at that point in my life, it was inevitable that if anybody presented anything to me that was going to change the way I perceived the world, I was always going to take it. I thank God from the bottom of my heart that some of the drugs that are currently present now in modern day society was not present when I was around, because I believe wholeheartedly I would be dead. You see, because like a lot of us, I was the kind of crack user that would smoke crack and have a heart attack. And I literally mean convulsions of my heart, so that I actually keel over and I'm unable to get back up, and I've gone into paralysis, right? To the point where I have an out of body experience where I feel as though I'm looking back at myself. I cannot speak, but I can hear, and I can hear the other similar drug addicts to me saying things like, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" And then, by the grace of God, a minute or two, I come to, and I'm able to get myself off the floor and get myself back up onto the grotty sofa in the crack house that I'm in. And my immediate next thought is, I'll go again, but this time I'll put half on. Despite the fact I've just had a heart attack. You see, so you can tell my inability to bring into force with any form of consciousness what had just happened to me and what could happen to me if I continue. The desire to be separated from my reality was so overwhelming, I would do it again. And I would be happy, and I would have done a deal with the consequences. And that deal would be, it could kill you. But it was a deal I was willing to contemplate. I would play Russian roulette with it. And the tragic thing about him, and the reason why you guys are so fundamental in my life now, is because by 1983, we're talking about 2.5 years after sucking on the devil's dick, I was already at a drug dependency clinic, knocking on the door and saying to them, I can't understand why it is I can't stop doing this. And to be fair to them, and I just did some work with a sponsee yesterday going through the doctor's opinion. And when I went to that clinic, they said to me openly and honestly, I'm afraid we don't have no treatment for what you are doing. And I remember leaving that treatment center clinic and thinking, Jesus Christ. So here we are, Peter. We have a serious dilemma here because we have you, i.e., Peter, and Peter's willpower and his inability to bring into force sufficient willpower to stop. You've got Peter and his love for his family and his children already then, and his inability to stop for them. You've got my family, my parents, who are asking the question, what is wrong with you? None of us can work out what is actually wrong with me. Then we go to the professionals who I was pinning my last hopes on, because these are people I presumed had been educated to understand the inner workings of my mind and also the solution. And they've just told me they can't solve my problem. So when you put all of that together, I am fucked. I walk out of there and I think, well, Peter, you've already experienced powerlessness because you're in this clinic. You already know it. You're destroying everything around you. So inevitably, by the time I got in front of you guys, some 27 years later, and you promised me, and more importantly, I knew people who were one of us, who were in the rooms, who were in recovery, and I knew that they were once like me. So for the first time ever, I had to learn a couple of, you guys said to me, Peter, there is a couple of words that you're going to need to abandon, because we seem to have heard you express this position on a few occasions. And if you want to recover from what at the moment leaves a hopeless state of mind and body, you're going to need to abandon two of your words in your vocabulary. The first one is, yeah, I know. You're going to need to abandon that because you don't end up in a modern day asylum, which is a treatment centre at the age of 44 with 2 black bags to your name, whole career destroyed, but physically emancipated, if you know. So that's the first one you need to get rid of. And the second one you need to get rid of, if you're going to have half a chance of ever recovering, is yeah, but. You're going to need to abandon this yeah, but. Because see, these were languages that I hid behind. You know, these are things which kept me, right? What I presumed was safe. You know, the what ifs. Yeah, but. Yes, I know. When I got around you guys, you said to me, you're right, listen, pal, you're going to need to abandon that. And I'm so pleased that crack cocaine, heroin, and alcohol gave me the beautiful kicking it done, that by the time I got in front of you guys, there was nothing left. I didn't need a huge amount of convincing. It was evident to me that of myself, by myself, I had been a catastrophic failure in my ability to understand what was wrong with me, but more importantly, apply any kind of human force to overcome it. I'm going to rewind a little bit because this is the crux of really what I came to find out when you guys gave me such critical and such crucial information that it allowed me to recover. Right? I can remember times where I would promise my kids that I'm going to read them a story when I get in from work. And I would sincerely have that in my mind. And I'd get in and I would start, trying to do the normal things. And then the witching hour would come where it would just go bing in my head. And somehow or other, I would make some sort of excuse for me to get into that bar, go out, score, or get into that bathroom. And my poor kids would say to me, Dad, every time you come out of that bathroom, you've changed. Why do you look different, Dad? They were only 6 and 7. I can remember promising my kids and my partner at the time, that I'm going to pick my kids up from school because I desperately meant it. And I would stop off at Charlie's house at 11 o'clock in the morning and I'd take a pipe. Right. And let me tell you something, I would feel myself getting enveloped by this force that was going to lock me down. And sometimes I might get the power to put some of it in my socks and say that I'm going to leave and go to school or go to work or go and do what I've got to do. And somewhere along the route, I'd get another thought, which would say, you know what, Peter? You need to go back and finish off what's in your socks. Right? You can then get a clean slate and you can start your day again. You will have already fed the beast and the beast will leave you alone. Of course, I'll fall victim to this. And then, of course, just when I want to beg the beast, let me go and do what I want to go and do. I want to go and be a proper dad. I want to go and go to work and serve my employers. I want to go and pick my mum up and take her shopping. I want to do these normal things. And it would say to me, don't forget, in those early days, who enabled you to talk better, to walk better, to work better, to dance better, to have better sex? Who was it? It was me. And even if I didn't believe that, it would reorganize the stage in my head so that it found a place for itself. It would then, despite my desires to not use that day and my rationale because of the type of plans I've got, it would reorganize the plans to make space for it. And then what it would do is it would talk to me in my own voice. It will talk to me in a voice that I am familiar with. It will talk to me and it will say to me in different times, it will say, you're going to use today and it's going to be a fuck up day. So it wasn't ever always saying to me, this time it's going to be different. Not at all. 90% of the time, I knew what the outcome was going to be. Catastrophe. But it was never going to stop me from doing it. Because this need, this restless, irritable, discontent, this shame, this guilt, this anxiety, this fear, this anger was so overwhelming in me that I had to separate myself from it, even if it was for a couple of minutes. And then I was going to pay the supreme sacrifice for the next 24 hours. I knew that. You see, the book talks about you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. What a state of purgatory. This is what I got to find out. You see, it would tell me that my pain was pleasure. It would lie to me and say to me, Peter, you're going to nick a little bit of pleasure. That's got to be worth it. You see, and you know, the truth of the matter is I've got so many examples of powerlessness, being hospitalized, right, with pancreatitis, right, having needles and catheters in my private parts and being in a hospital and forcing my loved ones to bring me up drinking drugs because if they don't, I'm going to leave. They're so terrified, they're so hurt, they're so baffled, but they do it anyway because they love me. As soon as they've brought it, I can't wait to see the back of them because I'm in the toilet, smoking crack in the toilet in the hospital. Of course, I then learn about the phenomenon of craving that I end up having to discharge myself in my boxer shorts and jump in a cab back to go and score. I've got examples of putting myself into a detox centre because I'm so desperate, but at the same time, taking a pocket full of drugs into the detox centre so that I can detox myself at my own pace. Here, can you see how baffled I am? I'm begging to get into treatment, but I want to use throughout the treatment. The great news is, and this is great news, I feel like I've shared a little bit about the mess, but I'm much more interested and I'm much more excited about what happened to me when one of us, right, who was part of our posse, me and Tony's posse, went off one night and never came back for 18 months. And he had got arrested that night and he went to prison and he found the steps and he came back into the trenches, right, into the front line, into the lion's den of crack cocaine addiction in Hackney. And he sat there in the corner, calm. And you know, there's a big bit in the big book that I was just reading yesterday with a sponsee when it says, on the other hand, and as strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once the psychic changes occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, because he was doomed when he left us, couldn't find him, had many problems. He despaired of ever resolving them. Suddenly found himself easily able to control the desire for alcohol. And that's what he done. See, we were expecting, selfishly, I was expecting that at some point he's going to capitulate. He has to. He's one of us. He must give in and take the devil's dick. But he didn't. And he said to me, Peter, when you're ready, there is a way out. I owe it to that man who came and carried the message to us. And 18 months later, my time had arrived. And I ended up in a treatment centre in Bournemouth in England, in southern England. And there he was, waiting to receive me. And he introduced me to you guys. And there is where it started. And as I said, when I got here, it was as though metaphorically, I ran into the building of the rooms and screamed at you guys, shut the door and please don't let it in. In fact, do not let it in. I'm absolutely ready. It had given me the kicking of a lifetime. At the age of 44, I weighed about 7.5 stone. My ribs were coming out of my back. My spine was coming out of my back. When I announced myself as a recovered addict, if you had seen me on January the 5th, 2006, and you see me now, you would have to agree I must have recovered. I'm a happy man to use that word. I'm a recovered drug addict, contingent on what it is I continue to do. And I got in front of you guys and you opened up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with me and you took me through the doctor's opinion. And there I understood the problem. There I understood the problem. And it says in our beautiful book, it's got that little 3-letter word where it says, we beg of you. It's the only time the book uses that word. We beg of you to be fearless and thorough. Right? And I remember saying to myself, Peter, time's up, son. Right? No more hiding. You're 44 years of age. You're going to have to tell the truth to someone. You're going to have to let them have it, mate. And you guys wrapped yourself around me like what I call my scaffolding. And you propped me up when I was all over the place and I was really a wretch. And you humbly took me through the steps. I can tell you now, this is my experience. I knew within about 3 days I was going to recover. I knew it. I absolutely knew 100% the solution was here. And did I want it enough? And the answer was yes. I'll talk about my spiritual experience quickly. Is that somebody mentioned the word commitment, and I remember thinking to myself, that's a frightening word for a drug addict like me, who never wants to commit to anything. And they said, you're going to need to make tea, Peter. And I remember thinking, how disgusting. How can they expect me to make tea? Do they not know who I am? And all the rest of it. However, for the first time in my life, I did as I was told. The first time only you guys could get me to do as I was told. And I did it. And this guy used to come in from round the back and spill the tea, put the biscuits in his pocket. And it used to irritate me. And then it dawned on me my new calling. And my new calling was to serve. I realized what had happened. And I woke up and I realized by the grace of God that man is me and my purpose is to serve him. I've never forgotten that. Right? I was told if you're able, Peter, to cultivate an attitude of gratitude, you are highly unlikely to use again. And I remember thinking to myself, what does that mean to me? Cultivate. And I went straight to farming because that's what came to my mind. And I realized that for me, that works perfectly because, see, when you think about it, any farmer who wants a yield has to do certain things. They have to turn the soil over. They have to ensure they've got the right quality seeds. They have to ensure they've got the right levels of fertilizer. They have to ensure that the soil is covered and the seeds are planted at the right time. And then that is his or her responsibility. And then there's the other beautiful half, which works for us. He's then got things that he cannot control. He cannot control the rain. He cannot control the sun. He cannot control the wind. And so therefore he has to have a higher power in his life. You see, because that's the kind of things he's got to rely on. You see, he can do his bit, but the other bit has to be left to his higher power. And I realize that is a perfect example, Pete, of you and your recovery. You do your steps and you rely on God to see you through. And that's what I've done. I have to tell you, I've got 50 minutes. As a result of what you guys taught me, you promised me and you said to me categorically, in no uncertain terms, when you get this, it being the spiritual experience, it is incumbent upon you to go give it away. You don't get this for free. You give this back in the same way it was given to you. Anybody who steals this and pisses off, I sit and wait for them to come back from purgatory and come back and give the message back to what was given to them. We die if we separate. You see, so I was schooled very early on that your calling from here on in, Peter, is to ensure there's a fellowship for the next man or woman who needs to get out from under. That is your responsibility. And for that, my higher power has blessed me with so many trinkets. That's what I like to call it. They're trinkets. They're external stuff, but I'm deserving every single one of them. When I picked that pipe up, I was trying to set a business up when I was 19. And I was a capable, competent businessman even then. And it robbed me of it. My illness robbed me of it. Fast forward to 2019, I had the same desire to set a business up. And this time I had the ability. Let me tell you now, 5 years later, that business now employs over 40 people. It turned over nearly £3 million last year. We've got projects on that's going to turn over nearly £10 million in the next 2 years. I talk about these financial rewards because these are things that we are capable of. Anything is we are capable, and God says you can have all of these things contingent on first things first. See, I'm under no illusion that all of that will disappear if I stop doing this. I have no desire to stop doing this. I don't want to stop doing this. I'm happy with my sobriety. I'm happy not being out of my head. I'm happy being placed in positions of neutrality, safe and protected. I'm happy with all of that. So why am I going to make the supreme sacrifice? As it stands now, you've got a fellow of the fellowships, CA being one of the leading ones for me, right, that has no intentions of going anywhere else and keep doing tomorrow what I did today, which got me through from yesterday. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.